Everybody, we are back with our good friend, Kristy Hall. Kristy and I got to know each other, probably 2 years ago now at this point, through a networking group here in Northern Colorado. And we were able to swipe her away from that one and pull her down to the Loveland group. But Kristy's been a good friend of Sarah and I for a long time. And I want to read some stuff. This lady is smart. She knows when she gets into what she does here in a minute. She is well-researched and well-versed in what she does. So she is the owner of Living Well Nutrition Center for Epigenetic Counseling. Sorry, and Kristy, fix me if I screw any of this stuff up. So,
will do.
Certified health coach through Dr. Sears Wellness Institute. She's got her master's of holistic nutrition through Hawthorne University. She's certified in functional medical nutrition therapy, culinary genomics, and epigenetic nutrition. Board certified in holistic nutrition through the Holistic Nutrition Credentiality Board. International designations as a registered nutrition consulting practitioner, and registered, this is the one that I'm going to mess up, orthomolecular health. Did I say that word right?
That's right. Yes, you did.
I was writing that out like, oh, this is going to be a challenge. And she's a member of the National Association of Nutrition Professionals. So, and just kind of an all-around badass. And a skilled scuba diver extraordinaire, loves to go on scuba diving adventures all over the world, which I do want you to tell that story.
Scuba dive and snow ski, and I've been known to jump out of a plane, a perfectly good plane.
Seriously? I didn't know that. Really?
I did. McKenna wanted to do that. That was like a bucket list thing that she wanted to do. We went on vacation to Utah, and she's like, let's do it. And I couldn't do it alone. So yeah, I jumped out of a plane.
That's awesome. Well,
it's terrifying.
Before, after, or during?
Well, I try not to think about it, but when you're sliding down the bench and the door is open, of course I was tethered to somebody else that knows what they're doing. Thank goodness. But you lean out and they're taking your picture, and you're supposed to hook your legs to the bottom of the plane, but your body is basically out. And the only reason you're still connected to the plane at all is because of the guy you're connected to.
Yeah.
And it was sheer terror. So I'll have to find the videos for you, or the pictures. You will laugh. And then it took me, it really took me about an hour and a half for the adrenaline levels to come back down to normal when I
can only imagine. You're bajillion feet off the ground, and
yeah, it was crazy. It was fun. Once the parachute deploys, it's really cool. But in the meantime, it's just freaky as all get out.
So how far up were you when you stepped out of that perfectly good airplane?
I think they did. I think it was like, I don't know, 12,000, 13,000 feet, something like that. I was in Moab.
Oh, I love Moab.
It was really pretty.
There's I'll share with you later, but totally different deal. There's a cool video out on YouTube that's this guy, and he was part of the GoPro skydive team or something like that, or base jump team or something like that. And they do these combination jumps where one guy jumps out of a plane, one guy jumps off a tower, and the filming of it's spectacular. But these guys are base jumpers, and I mean the views, the scenery that they show is stunning. I mean, it's southern Utah, which is gorgeous in general, but to see that from that perspective, I can only imagine what you're able to experience.
I will not be jumping off of a building for sure. That will never happen.
That's
That's my limit.
Unless McKenna says, "Come on, Mom, it's my birthday. We should do this together."
Well, now Whitley's old enough that Whitley can go with her, so I don't need to chaperone.
You tapped out and passed that on.
I'm done. Yeah, I'm done.
That's awesome. Well, that's cool. I didn't know that. I hadn't heard that story. And I do want you, in a minute, we'll get into it, but I do want you to tell your scuba diving story with you and Dana, and what you found on the beach.
Oh, yes. That was fun.
That's a funny story.
And all of your listeners will start becoming scuba divers, right? They're all going to make down to Cayman Islands.
Yep. Yeah. Let's just go ahead and tell that now. Go ahead and tell that story now.
So my husband, I bought him scuba diving lessons for his, I can't remember what birthday it was, maybe 46th, 47th birthday. Yeah. So we decided to go we went to Little Cayman Island. And we had a beautiful week of diving, and it was a very full week. But on the last day, I said, we haven't even walked the beach. Let's go walk the beach. And he went along with me. And sadly, there's just a lot of trash on the beach. Garbage washes up, and they clean the beaches about every other day. And so there was trash in the water, and I would go out in the water and I'd pull the trash in. And he's like, I wish you wouldn't do that. I'm like, no, I really want to get the trash out. So
I told everybody, you're just a good human being. This proves it. On your vacation, you're cleaning up the beaches in Little Cayman.
Yeah, you can't, it's hard to see. I mean, it's such a beautiful place, and then, all the trash. But we're coming back, and we're almost back to our hotel, and we see something floating in the water. And I said, well, I'm going to go get that. And I had to wade out, thigh deep in the water. And I went, oh, it looks like a book that somebody has wrapped in plastic. And I said, it's a teenager's art book. And they've probably put a message in there and wrapped it up and threw it in the ocean to see if anybody would find it. And this will be so fun. Let's take this home, find out the message, and then contact the artist and just say, hey, we got your book. It's really cool. And my husband looked at it. He goes, that's not a book. That's a box. I bet it's a box of Cuban cigars. I said, there's no way that's a box. You're dreaming. You're going to have to buy your Cuban cigars.
Yep.
So we're walking and talking the whole time. And then we see one of the dive masters, and she says, hey, what you got there? And we're like, it's a treasure. We found a treasure. And she said, you better be careful with that. And I'm like, what? Like, why? Like, what are you talking about? And she leaves, and another dive master comes by and he goes, hey, why don't you bring that into the dive shop? Because we're unwrapping. There's so much plastic wrap around this container, this thing. We're unwrapping. He goes, you need to bring that into the dive shop. So we take it in the dive shop, and he pulls out a razor and he slices it. And we had been walking around with an entire kilo of cocaine.
Oh my God.
We were so stupid. Neither one of us had a clue. We had no idea. I thought it was an art book. Yeah.
Art book. Yep. That is so good.
So, my husband, they said, okay, you better take that to the front desk. And my husband said, do you want to carry it? I'm like, heck no.
No way.
You can carry it. I'm not touching it.
Yeah.
So they called the only policeman on the island, and he did come and, take pictures and picked up the goods.
That's great. What did you ever hear what the street value would have been?
The street value of that one, because it was Colombian cocaine. So one of
my gosh.
The art book is apparently there's a calling card when there's a kilo. They have a nice, beautiful drawing, and so there was this really cool drawing. It looked like a teenager would do it, and that particular calling card was Colombian, and so that cocaine had a higher street value than apparently the Mexican cocaine, so around $70,000.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That is like
just washed up on the beach. And then we asked him, like, what's the deal? And they said it was probably a drop, because they can the drug, I don't know, dealers, cartel, I don't know what they are. Yeah. They study currents, and they can place an item in the water and know based on currents which beach it's going to wash up on, and then
seriously
they'll to pick it up. Yeah, it's really high tech.
And really. you were the lucky recipient.
We were leaving that day. I'm so glad. I would have been scared.
Can you imagine if you put that in your, oh God, can you imagine if you put that in your suitcase it's an art book.
Right. And I mean, coming back into the U.S. is really difficult. I mean, they check you every which way to Sunday. We'd have been in jail for no telling how long.
Oh my word. And we'd all had to vouch for it. And you go, no, it's Kristy and Dan. They're not really
stupid. Very naive. They have no idea what they're seeing. We sent pictures of it to our neighbor that lives across the street, sheriff's deputy. He didn't miss a beat. He goes, oh, you found a kilo of cocaine. And we're like, we just didn't have a clue. It was
so funny. That is like the best travel story ever.
It was that'll be like the best vacation story ever, I'm sure.
For sure. I mean, the only way you top that is if you actually find like the drug dealer and bring them back to the place for a beer. So I don't know.
Yeah, right. No, I'm hoping I never run into that person.
Yeah.
Don't want that to happen.
That is, oh my gosh. When you told us that the first time, I was like teary-eyed. I was laughing so hard.
Yeah. Well, you talk about that. It's like the adrenaline. It took me a week and a half to get over that one.
Oh, I'm sure. Well, because like you said, if you just, go ahead.
They say they find you. Like if you pick up their cocaine and take off with it, they will track you down. They will come to your house, they will find you, and you will pay them for that product that you removed from the drop site or from the
my gosh.
So
well,
I was very happy to leave.
Yeah, no kidding. Good thing I was on the final day
Right.
of the trip.
Right.
That is crazy. Yeah, that's like when you came back and you told us that story, I was like literally teary-eyed. I was laughing so hard. But not only that, but just like the like you said, the back end of that, like the terror of what could have happened.
So scary. Right. I was so scared. Yeah.
And that's just a normal day in Little Cayman.
They actually said it's not. They said it was
seriously?
exciting thing to happen to the island in years.
Oh, no kidding.
You know, so one of two things happened. Either there had been like not a hurricane in that area, but you know, a really significant storm.
Yeah.
And there, I guess, had been a hurricane a few weeks before that had hit a production facility. So there was a lot of cocaine washing up in Florida. So there's a possibility that this one was kind of accidental.
Oh.
So there's that possibility. Possibility is that there was, you know, potentially somebody that was coming to the island, but they said it's just super rare. There's such a small population there, and everybody knows everybody else. So it was just kind of a weird,
kind of a random thing. And you guys got to be part of it. That's special.
We got to do it. That's right.
Full ocean beach experience. Like
that's right.
What vacation is not complete without finding a
cocaine your kilo of cocaine. Yeah. That's right. Well, the dive master said, "Hey, we could feed this to the chickens because the chickens run wild all over the island. We could feed this to the chickens and watch what happens." I'm like, oh my God. Can you imagine? Or the iguanas?
Coked up chickens running around the island.
Yeah.
That could have been entertaining.
It could have been.
Funny. All right. Well, I want to pick your brain on some of your expertise and how it apply, how what you do. And also, you guys, I want you to know that Kristy has helped, and I'm going to let her kind of explain this better than I can, but she has helped Sarah with some diet things. And I don't like to use the word diet because that has kind of a different connotation than what you do. But explain to our team kind of what it is that your focus is, kind of day to day, and how you help people and how you get them kind of on the right track from a standpoint.
So generally, you know, basically, I'm trying to help people optimize their health from the direction of nutrition. So we know that over 80% of the diseases in our country are based on diet and lifestyle choices. So really, if you want to optimize your health, you start with a nutrition professional and somebody who's trained in lifestyle, you know, the benefits of certain lifestyle activities. That's where you go for kind of optimization of health and longevity and vitality. So that's where we start. So that's kind of just that bird's eye view. This is what I do. I have lots of tools in my toolbox to make that happen.
Yeah.
But one of the tools that I get the most excited about, that I geek out about and just love, is epigenetics. And so epigenetics is how your genes are expressing themselves. It's the actual genetic function of your gene. And we can change the way our genes function by what we eat and how we live and what we think. So we can turn genes off, we can turn genes on, we can make them go faster, we can make them go slower, all by the choices that we're making day in and day out. And so that's where I get super, super excited. Now, we all have weaknesses that we're born with, right? But even in the midst of those weaknesses, we have control to upregulate or downregulate certain genes and certain pathways. So what I like to do with people that come into the office, if they're coming in for a genetic, they want their epigenetics tested. And I use a test called Your Genomic Resource. And it's a very broad and very deep test. And we're looking at thousands of genes and lots of different biochemical pathways. And so we can do that test. I spend, it takes about 6 weeks to get your test back, and it's a spit test. You just spit in a tube. And about 6 weeks later, I get the reports back, and it's hundreds of pages. And then that's when I get to dig in, right? So I start looking at, we do a symptom survey, right? Like a questionnaire. And I look at all kinds of different symptoms that are going to point me in certain directions. And then we look at the strengths and weaknesses of genes within certain pathways. So we have this thing, I don't want to get too technical, but that beautiful twisted ladder of the DNA. Every rung of that ladder is set in a protein base. And these protein bases are supposed to be in a very particular order. If they get out of order, it's called a SNP. And if you a lot of SNPs in a gene, it can actually reduce the function of that gene. Now, we never look at one gene, we look at a whole pathway, right? So if you have genes with SNPs, lots of SNPs all on a pathway, we can, and it overlays that with your symptoms, we can go, okay, this pathway isn't working very well, and here are the symptoms that are backing up that, that assumption or that educated guess. Then we can go in and we can say, okay, you're having health problems. And, a lot of times we're looking at chronic inflammation, and, people in this country are chronically inflamed. And signs that you may be chronically inflamed would be, I've got lots of aches and pains. Maybe I'm just, I'm not feeling good. My energy sucks. I'm getting sick all the time. I'm not recovering very quickly. There's, a lot of different signs and symptoms of inflammation. But when we overlay that with the genetic report, then we can start to see, okay, it's like little red flags popping up. Look over here, or look over here. And we start to look there, and we can remove those things that are feeding the flames of inflammation for that person. And then we can make sure that we're providing the right cofactors for a genetic pathway or, biochemical pathway. And I like to use a lot of examples when I'm educating people, but it's like if you have a car and it's a gas powered car, and you put diesel in that car, it's not going to go anywhere, right? Mess your car up. You have to put the right kind of gas in the vehicle. And so all of these pathways need certain nutrients, very key micronutrients, to run properly. So we make sure that we have that in place. And then there are times that we can upregulate a gene and make it work a little bit faster, even if it's not, it's got a lot of SNPs, it's got a lot of weaknesses, we can still make it work a little faster and really optimize people's health on that super foundational level. And so, we're doing all of this with nutrients, vitamins and minerals or herbs to make all of this happen. And it's amazing the impact you can have on somebody's life and their health. And I like to tell people, it's like using a rifle instead of a shotgun when you're trying to figure out what your body needs. So
Gotcha.
People come into my office with those big plastic tubs. I've had one lady came in with 3 big tubs of supplements that she was taking. And every time she heard about a new supplement that did something great, she'd buy it and add it. And I was able to, okay, let's figure out what's going on genetically, from an epigenetic standpoint, and let's narrow it down. And wow, you talk about changing her life and saving her hundreds of dollars.
Seriously.
Just a handful of things.
Yeah. So, okay. So you mentioned in that and I'm probably going to butcher some of this, but the protein order can get out of whack. So how does explain to me if it's in this ladder, and the ladder, I'm a visual person, so I'm picturing this in my mind. Yeah. How do those proteins get rearranged from how they were supposed to be?
So there's only 4 protein bases, right? Okay. And so you can inherit these, the protein bases being out of order from a parent. And it can be something that kind of impacts you over the course of your life or in the course of your life, that things kind of get messed up and a little bit out of order and starts to change the function of the gene. So either way, it can happen either way. You can inherit it, or you can and make that change.
And you're saying it kind of manifests itself, like you said, with inflammation and things like that.
It can. So one of the things, it doesn't have to necessarily be inflammation. It can be like one example, and this is something I see a lot of, like people come into me and I've got some anxiety, I'm not sleeping well.
Yeah.
What's going on? And so we can look at all these different things that are leading to the production of neurotransmitters and then the clearance of neurotransmitters. So if you're not clearing neurotransmitters, you can end up with too much dopamine. That's the neurotransmitter. You're a goal-oriented person and you like it, achieving those goals, it makes you feel really good. But too much dopamine leads to anxiety. You can be a bit of a warrior. You can be a perfectionist. You may not be sleeping well. You're very driven. A lot of those people will define themselves as type A personality.
That's really interesting, because what you're saying, I'm like, oh man.
Is that you? Did I just describe you?
No, don't ask Sarah.
So sometimes if we're not degrading that quickly enough, it can start to build up and start to impact our sleep and kind of our peace of mind. So there's a particular gene that's involved in helping to clear that and help break that down. And that gene is dependent on magnesium. It's also dependent on a molecule called SAMe. And so even when that gene isn't working well, we can provide the magnesium, provide the SAMe if needed. That's a very powerful molecule that we're very judicious with. But then we can upregulate that gene with an essential oil called Melissa oil. And it's amazing for people that have that genetic SNP, just having those tools in their toolbox changes everything. I've got one client who's been with me for a number of years, and she just every day when she goes to the office, she has a diffuser on her desk and she puts the Melissa oil in, and it is a game changer.
Seriously.
Yeah. It is, and again, we can see right where it's like what is happening. Obviously there are lots of different neurotransmitters. So some people struggle with getting to GABA. Mm-hmm. So we get glutamine in our diet from eating animal protein or from protein powders or, bone broth or whatever. But the body takes it through a couple of different steps to get to GABA, that feel-good neurotransmitter. Sometimes it'll get stuck. We get stuck in glutamate, and that really can cause problems. It can cause a lot of anxiety. It can cause nightmares. Very unique.
Really?
GABA. Yeah. Sometimes people will think that they're actually seeing things, like they think they see a spider or something out of the corner of their eye.
Yeah.
Nothing there. And it's really because they are stuck. They can't get to the glutamine to GABA. They get stuck in glutamate. So pretty cool things that you can see genetically what's happening.
Okay. Now this is going to take me off on a way far tangent, but what you just said essentially, and correct me if I'm wrong, but essentially kind of hallucinations, for lack of a better word. I know that's but okay. So see if I can follow this through to my thought. With ultra running, kind of taking this to our running crowd. So like in ultra running, right, you get people going and they're running the 100-mile, races and things like that.
Right.
I did one a few years ago, and there was a point in the race where, one, you're sleep deprived. You've been moving for, at this point I'd been moving for 18 hours or so. Mm-hmm. I'll kind of use my own experience. So would there have been something, so I get to this point, middle of the night, it's literally like 2 or 3 in the morning. And I come up to this big bush, and I saw somebody off to the right-hand side of the trail behind this scrub brush. And we were down in the hill country, kind of Bandera, Texas. I don't know if you know where that's at. I know you're kind of from that part of the country, but Bandera is like literally in the middle of nowhere out in the hill country. Beautiful area. But there's nothing taller than probably a small car. Mm-hmm. And so I'm middle of the race, middle of the night, and I see somebody, at least I thought I did, behind this scrub brush. So I kind of come around to the other side of it, and I turn around to check on him, say, hey, are you okay? And there's nobody there. So it occurs to me that I'm like starting to see things, and I'm getting to that point with my, again, been running for, close to 20 hours at this point.
Right.
Or, probably around there. So could there have been something, question all that, because I think this will relate to some of our longer ultra distance type of, is there something from that genetic standpoint that, people are all the time talking about supplements and how do I kind of maintain the system while I'm moving through this long distance race? Is there something, are we overthinking it? I guess is what I'm getting at. Because most people are like, well, I just need more, sugars in the middle of the night, or I need more pretzels, I need more salt, I need to offset with some sort of supplement. Could there be something?
That's a really great thing that you bring up, because people, when you're doing those distance runs, you're getting a lot of packaged foods, right?
Yeah.
Can you grab and peel and choke down while you're moving?
Right.
One of the things that can lead to that excess glutamate is MSG, and that MSG is added to a lot of, that's a flavor enhancer.
Okay.
And food manufacturers don't have to list MSG on their label. So sometimes they do list MSG, and then sometimes it'll just say seasoning and spices. So if you're doing a lot of packaged foods, chances are you're getting a lot of glutamate in the foods that you're eating. And so certainly that could be a contributor to something like that. Absolutely.
Interesting. So would there be, because to your point, like that's kind of, if I'm thinking through, we're, to kind of put a timestamp on this thing, we're kind of in the middle of this whole, oh, you're being invaded. You got somebody coming over your shoulder.
Yeah, my baby boy.
You got a bear in your house there.
Right.
To kind of put a timestamp on this thing, we're recording this on May 13th. So we're 2 months into this quarantine thing and kind of on the backside of this. So, we've all been kind of pinned down for a while and twitching to get outside and get moving again. So I guess that's what I'm kind of wondering too, like with the whole coronavirus and all of the things, that not to get too deep into that, but I look and see, kind of some of the different supplements and things and gels and hydration drinks and stuff that runners and endurance athletes use. And I'm wondering, is there something that's maybe better? I mean, because, we've got some races coming up. I just ding. That was a trick question. But we're having to look at it. We joke because, trail runners in general, if you go through especially an endurance race of, marathon or further, trail runners in generally are probably about the most unsanitary people in unsanitary sport, because we'll go running through the woods, and dig our hands into a bowl full of Skittles to replenish the sugars. And it's just happening day in and day in. So we're having to kind of think from an event director standpoint, we're having to kind of restructure and rethink how we even do aid stations. Right. And we just had this conversation with some friends of ours yesterday that put on a big 100K race up in the Never Summer range. And my brother's in race director as well down in Texas. And so we're having to kind of rethink how we do aid stations, because it's like when we kind of, Sarah and I kind of stepped back a few days and go, you know what, it's kind of gross, how we do it. But it's just a normal thing. Right. And so I think probably every trail runner on the planet is probably immune from COVID-19 just because our immune systems have been built up through aid stations.
That's right.
On trail runs.
That's right.
So take, I'll let you just take that and run with it for a few minutes.
Okay.
Cause you're familiar with that world too, being a runner yourself.
So I have two different thoughts there. And when you're talking about people that are doing ultra marathons, 100-mile races, a person that is training for that kind of race is actually going to fare better if they are burning fat instead of carbs.
Sure.
So you can run a lot further on the fat that your body has than sugars, right? Mm-hmm. If somebody's if they're a serious dedicated ultramarathoner, I would lean towards the keto diet suggestion.
Okay. Interesting.
Follow the ketogenic diet. Generally, in a very general terms, no roots, no fruits. It's much more complex than that to do it right, to do it healthy, because one of the negatives, drawbacks to a ketogenic diet when it's not done properly, is that the microbiome changes. And of course, the microbiome is, we're a host, the more is living in us than we have cells in our body. And so of paramount importance, regardless of what your lifestyle is like, you have to take care of the microbes that live in your gut. When people do a ketogenic diet and they don't do it with the microbiome in the forefront of their minds, that's a negative impact on that gut health. So it's super, super important that you continue to eat a high fiber diet, and if it's possible to do a high fiber diet on a ketogenic diet. So, number one recommendation would be go ahead and switch yourself into a fat burner and eat a very low carb. And it takes time. There's something called the keto flu when you first do that. So you're going to feel really rotten for the first week or two. And there's certain things that you need to do for that, taking extra electrolytes to help with the keto flu. So that's what I would suggest to that. However, I know it's really hard to stick with a ketogenic diet. I mean, any diet where you have to test your ketones, and if you're going to stick with ketogenic diet for a while, you can start with a urine test, but you really do need to move into blood testing, just a finger prick like that somebody with diabetes would do.
Why do you say that? I'm just curious, like what's the benefit?
So do you need to know, are you?
Okay. So we had a little bit of a technical glitch there. So pick back up with, we were kind of talking through the advantage of the blood test.
We're talking about testing. Yeah. Testing. Yeah. So you need to know, when you're following a ketogenic diet and you're doing this for health purposes or for athletic purposes, you don't want to be an extreme end of producing ketones like somebody that's got epilepsy, right?
Oh, okay.
You need to know why you're doing it, and then that's going to kind of dictate where you need to be in that range. Some people have very efficient metabolisms, and they can actually tolerate a little bit more carbs. And so measuring and kind of knowing how to manage where you are in ketosis is going to be important, because you don't want to end up hurting yourself or inadvertently kicking yourself out of ketosis.
Okay.
when that's your objective. So, that being said, it's a tough diet to follow because you do, once you get to know your body, it's not going to be so hard. But anytime somebody has to be testing their blood on a daily basis, that is a very artificial.
Yeah.
So if you're not willing to go down that path, let's say you're doing this because it's, you have a goal of running 100 miles, but you're not a professional athlete, and you say, nope, I'm not going to go down that path. What are my other options?
Mm-hmm.
I would actually suggest that you run with baked potatoes or boiled potatoes in your pocket.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you're going to get some good, quick energy that way. And the side benefit of having a potato is that you're really feeding your microbiome. So it's a very quick energy, and it's just a great resource for you, and you don't have to eat something out of a package.
Yeah. Well, and that's interesting because I know, again, kind of going to the aid station situation, there are races, especially in that, kind of 50K and up, where they will have potatoes, at aid stations. Mm-hmm. And I, for me, it's, I haven't raced. I'm not, there's the elite guys that are, like my brother, they're racing and they're running to win. Then there's those of us that are just trying to survive the day, right?
Just to say you did it, right? There's value and say, I did that.
Totally. And that's the vast majority. I think that's the vast majority of people out there running and doing any exercise. I mean, most of us are kind of weekend warriors and, looking to complete something, completed an objective or something like that. But, so for me, when I pull into an aid station, I just kind of listen to my body. It's like, okay, I'm feeling a little depleted on sugars or whatever. So I'll stick my hand in the bowl, and this is going to make you twinge, but I'll stick my hand in the bowl of Skittles along with everybody else that's been through there. But they have some aid stations will have potatoes and things like that. And I'll grab a bowl of that or, chicken broth and things of that nature kind of later in the day. And I've never really known why, other than it just makes me feel like I'm kind of bringing things back up to level.
Well, think about it. You're getting minerals, and you're getting, you're getting vitamins and minerals versus the Skittles. That's not giving you anything.
Oh, I know.
Sugar, and you're going to burn it in an instant.
For sure. Yeah.
So you're going to, your blood sugar is going to go up. Your insulin level is going to go up. And, just by the way, ladies, when your insulin level goes up, your blood sugar drops fast, but your insulin doesn't. It just stays. And that's a fat storage hormone. So the more you do that kind of stuff on a race or wherever, that is just telling your body, hey, every calorie I eat for the next few hours, store as fat on my belly. So,
interesting.
Yeah. So not a good choice.
Yeah. Makes me feel good though.
For a moment.
For that long.
Right.
Well, and we've had this conversation offline. You know me, that's my, would you call me one time an enabler? I
think I called you the tempter as well.
Tempter, that's what it was. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I know my role and I've accepted it. But
are you helping your wife to strengthen her willpower?
Yep, exactly. You don't want this, but I'm going to take one for the team for both of us. So.
Yeah. My husband does that too.
Well, and talk about that as much as you can too, because like I said, that was kind of one of the things we talked about early on is Sarah got some coaching from you and changed some things, and by default, so did I. And I will say, like the changes that we've made, you'll be happy. Today for lunch, I had shrimp and asparagus.
Nice. And that nourishes the body, and it gives you sustained energy.
Yeah, and I feel good. So
yeah.
But maybe and you kind of hinted on this a little bit, but maybe kind of talk a little bit about the test that I know you can't get into specifics, but maybe kind of give us a little bit of general.
Yeah. So I work with a company called Metabolic Balance, and it is really designed to optimize somebody's metabolic hormones. Mm-hmm. The side effect of that is going to be weight loss. And we start with doing...
Now, hang on. Pause there for a second. That's an interesting way you just said that. The side effect is weight loss. That's not necessarily the goal.
No, it's not the goal. We want to balance hormones, because when we have balanced hormones, it has this domino effect throughout the body, right? So when we balance the hormones, the insulin levels come down, leptin levels optimize, ghrelin levels optimize, and then we actually start having... trickle-down effect even on the sex hormones and the stress hormones. And that's what we want, right? Because we optimize our health from all these different aspects, not just see a smaller number on the scale. Now, women and men too, I'm sure, we all want to see a smaller number on the scale because it just feel better about ourselves. But that's not the primary goal. The primary goal is to fix the hormones. And so I was very, very reluctant to go into the field of weight loss at all because it's a crowded market, right? A lot of companies doing it. But it drives me crazy to watch TV ads and they're like, you can lose weight eating this chocolate cake and eating this waffle and eating this bowl of pasta. BS.
Yeah.
I mean, all those companies are doing is trying to create customers for life, because if you eat like that, you will be forever tied to buying their product and eating the portion size that they've determined, because they are not supporting your hormones. Your hormones are going to remain out of balance, and you're never going to have just the freedom and the, you know, that vibrancy of life by having balanced hormones. So just pained me to see people walking down that path and clients would come and go, well, I'm doing such and such program. And I'm like, okay. So yeah. So that's what motivated me. I'm like, okay, I have to do something. I have to give people a better option.
Yeah.
So that's what I really liked about metabolic balance, because it's really about, let's balance your hormones and get you to a better state of health. And then the side effect is just watching the numbers come down on the scale.
Yeah. Well, and again, without getting into too much specifics, I mean, we saw pretty rapid and dramatic results from the weight loss standpoint. I mean, like I said, I know that's not the goal, but it was interesting because felt better. And Sarah was, as you know, was way more disciplined than me.
I can't imagine.
Yeah, go figure. I was disciplined by default.
Right.
You know, but it was interesting because that really was in her the same thing. I mean, after the conversation we had, or she had specifically with you about it, was she was dealing with some other underlying things, and let's go down this road. And oh, by the way, you lost some weight too. So pretty cool.
Well, and I've got another client who's, she's got a lot of weight to lose, but we're balancing things out. And when she came to me, she said, I just have so much fatigue. I am so tired all the time. And so we did a recheck. So she was on for about 4 weeks before we got to meet again because of the whole pandemic. And we were just communicating via text, but she finally came into the office and had lost about 16 pounds. I guess it was 5 or 6 weeks into it, but her energy level had doubled.
Wow.
And full body aches and pains that she was having are gone.
Jeez.
She is very far from reaching her goal. I mean, at that point she was 16, she's about 20 pounds in, she's got a 100-pound weight loss goal. But just losing only 20% of her goal, she's feeling so much better.
That's incredible.
That's really what it's about. Because once you feel better, then it's kind of easier to stay the course. It's easier to be committed. You can start doing things that you want to do. You can maybe start, maybe you could start running or whatever. You have the energy to live life. Yeah.
To do things we're supposed to do. Well, and that's an interesting point too, because I think, how many times do we hear people complain, oh, I'm so tired. That's like their cop out for, no, I shouldn't say cop out, but that's their justification for not doing things is, oh, I'm tired. Well, if it's a simple, I mean, I know it's not simple, but if it's a shift in mindset that way, and all of a sudden I'm going to use us as an example. I mean, I know that was the thing that we noticed was we lead very moving and active lives, like you do. And to have that energy level shift to, wow, I can wake up in the morning and I'm ready to go. Although you hit a nerve earlier with the whole Melissa oil thing that I'm gonna have to go look into now for me personally. But that's interesting. I mean, I think it's, I think we've started hearing more and more about how our diets can change, or how our diets affect our lives from an energy standpoint. I mean, you just hit all the things on the head.
Absolutely. And it's interesting. I'll have people come to me and I have fatigue. Well, there's 100 different reasons why somebody can have fatigue, but pretty much we can nail it down with some kind of a nutrient. It may not be a vitamin or a mineral. It might be something that maybe the body is struggling to make an important molecule like NADH or something like that. And we can see that, particularly if we do a genetic test, and we can fix it. I have people that come to me, they're in their 60s and 70s, and they're super active and they're skiing and they're climbing mountains, and that's what I want to be doing.
Seriously.
Climbing mountains. I don't want to be having to use a walker and can't make a block, can't walk around the block.
Right.
So there's so many things that we can do, and so many things that are kind of chalked up to aging that is BS. It's because we haven't taken care. I call this my earth suit, right? This is my earth suit.
Mm-hmm.
Take care. It's my responsibility to take care of my earth suit, just like it's my responsibility to take care of my car. And so, if you want your earth suit to last 8, 9, maybe even 10 decades, you have to be proactive, but you can do it.
Well, and you hit that too. Like, go back. I mean, I look at my granddad passed away at 97 years old. That generation came from a hardy, solid generation, right? The greatest generation. And I think it was due to, and then there's this gap of those of us that are, are arguably baby boomers, but certainly Gen X, or if Gen X, I don't even know if my generation exists anymore because they keep changing it on us. But
you just don't count.
We just don't count. We're just there. We're just a gap in time, I guess. But then, getting into the millennials like that, like we're in this stage, and I think from what you're talking about is getting back to how people used to treat their bodies. I mean, they worked hard on the farms. They lived a hard existence. Mm-hmm. They had to feed themselves in a way that would sustain that constant motion, right? And I think now we're in a state where, or we're in an existence in our society where that hard labor isn't necessarily as prevalent, but what you're talking about, what you do, is becoming more and more relevant because we've been eating junk for decades,
right.
And now figuring out a way to get that energy level back and get things back to the way that they should be. That's
an interesting thing that you bring up, because one of the things that we do in my family is we have a family reunion every 3 years. And so it's a study of what's happening. In my grandma, and this is all from my grandmother's family, all but 2 of her siblings lived to be over 100 years old.
Wow.
Amazing stock. And they came from German immigrants that came over here in the early 1700s, farming family. Yeah. So they did grow a lot of their own vegetables. Even when they weren't on the farm anymore, they had their vegetable gardens and they ate it, they ate out of the garden. The next generation, my dad's generation, the health is tragically poor. Last time I went to a family reunion, and my dad's already deceased.
Right.
Just the downhill slide was so significant. Like my grandmother and her family, her sisters, there were no scoliosis, no heart disease, no cancer. And then the next generation down, and horrible scoliosis and all kinds of diseases that generation, my grandparents' generation, just didn't experience. And so we have to ask ourselves, what is it? Lifestyle? Is it diet? Is it environmental toxins? And I would say that it's all of the above. They drive through fast food. And so, we get into a habit of just driving through. I don't have much time, and I'm going to drive through such and such fast food place and grab something.
Yeah. And
that food is, if you're eating corn-fed beef, you're eating French fries, those things are going to be very, very inflammatory. And there's that inflammation. And the inflammation is the beginning of all the chronic diseases in this country.
Right. For sure.
It's at the beginning of depression. It's the beginning of heart disease. It's the beginning of diabetes. It's the beginning of cancer. So that is just like, that is the worst thing we could do, right? Drive the fast food place. And really, honestly, there's nothing faster than slicing a banana or an apple and putting some nut butter on it.
Right. Right.
Cheaper, a lot faster.
For sure.
We get in this mindset, we tell ourselves, I don't have time to do X, Y, Z.
Yep.
We also we are exposed to more toxins than existed when our grandparents were alive. We're bombarded. So you think about the average teenage girl is exposing herself to over 150 toxins before she walks out of the house in the morning.
Seriously?
Yes. And that's from her body soap and her shampoo and her conditioner and her deodorant and her perfume or cologne, and her lotions and her makeups and her lip gloss, and you just fill in the blank. Adult women also exposed to dozens and dozens, but less than 100, because they don't do quite as much as a teenage girl. Men exposed to dozens, but not as nearly to the degree that women are. And these are things that they interrupt our natural hormones. There's xenobiotics. There's just all kinds of stuff, that just chemicals that we're filling our bodies with. Now, our bodies detox 24. Right. So we're just slathering toxins on our bodies, right? And so anything that touches your skin can actually be measured in your bloodstream within 16 to 26 seconds. It can be measured in blood. So we have to be very mindful of what we're putting on our bodies and keep it simple, right? Keep it clean and keep it simple. But it's also on our food, it's in our water, and it's in our air. We know that 75% of the air in the U.S. is contaminated with glyphosate. That's Roundup. That's that we're actually breathing. So even if you're eating organic, you're still breathing it. You're still getting it. So you have to be proactive about what are you doing to support detox pathways in your body. One thing that scares just really scares me. Dana and his sons have a lawn care company, so they're outside and they're exposed to a lot of herbicides, fungicides, pesticides. And genetically, they don't clear that stuff very well. I mean, I can look at their genes. There's one gene that's very particularly involved in this type of detox, and it's called PON1, and their PON1 stinks. So you bet all summer long, this entire season, I am upregulating and giving him supplements targeted to supporting that particular gene so he doesn't hold on to those toxins. So I think that's another big thing. It's not just the diet, it's not just the lifestyle, but it's our environmental exposure.
Yeah. I think you're right. I mean, it's, I'm curious, again, not to belabor the whole COVID-19 thing, but, we've seen a lot of the air pollution and things like that has come down significantly in places like India and LA and all of these cities like that. I think there's going to be, with all of the tragic loss of life that has happened through this thing and will obviously continue for a while longer, I think there's going to be some good that comes out of this virus. And that's weird to say, but I think some of those kinds of things, maybe to your point, where the pollution levels, we're seeing that come down and hopefully we can manage that going forward. But as well as just kind of throttling back on the speed of life. I was talking to my good buddy when we were kids. He worked at a grocery store in Moore, where we grew up. And they shut the store was closed at 9:00. And guess what? Everybody got their grocery shopping done before 9:00 at night, Monday.
Right.
And actually back then, most businesses were closed on Sundays. And so you had to do all of your grocery shopping from Monday through Saturday, things like that. I think there's going to be some, I know there will be for us. I mean, we've already started to kind of like, okay, we've done without this thing for the last however long we've been locked down now. I don't even know, it's 2 months or 6 years. I don't even know anymore, but, but I think maybe kind of to what you're saying there, there's going to be some things that come out of this whole process of quarantine that I think is going to be good for us from a physiological, and I don't have near as many letters behind my name, but I think there's some things that I can see from a sociological, I'll use that from a sociological background, or with my background there, that I think is going to be good for us. And I think that's going to relay right into our physiological side and things that you do. And I hope for our society that that's the case. Cause like we've said, I mean, that middle generation from boomers to millennials, I mean, we're just so full throttle all the time. And to be kind of, I mean, again, for us, this has been, while it's been annoying and I don't like it because I don't like people telling me I can't go do things. It has been good for us. And, I hope that some of these habits, oh gosh, what's the statistic? It takes, I don't know, what is it? 60 days to retrain a habit or something like that. I'm kind of butchering it, but you know what I'm getting at.
Right.
I hope that some of these things have become more habit forming in the last 2 months. And like I said, I know they have for us from an exercise and just diet and all of those kinds of things.
It has been pretty encouraging to see the number of people just hitting the roads, or we have a park. We can see a park from the back of our house, and families out there playing catch, going, out with a kite. But one of the things that I find incredibly disturbing during this time is we decided that fast food restaurants needed to stay open, liquor stores and pot shops needed to stay open. Fortunately, we still had the grocery store.
Yeah.
We shut down farm-to-table restaurants. We shut down acupuncturists. We shut down chiropractors.
Yep.
Down, all of these things that support health, we shut down. And the things destroy health, we kept open as essential.
Totally agree.
Really wrong with that.
Yep.
Really wrong with that. So this was a good opportunity for people to develop some new habits. And I know there were a lot of people obviously having to cook more and teaching their kids how to cook. So this was a great opportunity. I just hope people took it.
I agree. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm totally with you. And I again, just kind of using our neighborhood and where we are in our family. I mean, Sarah's always been a cook. I got real lucky that I married a woman that loves to cook and is really good at it.
Yeah.
Because my mom used to joke, like, I survived college off of peanut butter and Chick-fil-A. Thank goodness there was a Chick-fil-A on campus.
Right.
That's what got me through.
That's my favorite. Chick-fil-A is my favorite place.
Oh man. I
don't go very often, but I sure do like it.
At one point in my old career, when I was up and down the road, I could tell you literally where every Chick-fil-A was between North Denver and Cheyenne, Wyoming.
Oh my gosh. That's crazy.
The nature of the job.
Yeah, I guess.
But kind of to your point, I think that's the cool thing. And I hope, I'm with you. I hope people take the good habits and let's spend time at home with family. Let's cook, healthy meals and not get the junk and the takeout and things like that. I'm with you. I really hope that's kind of the takeaway from all this, because they're, like I said, as obnoxious and annoying as it has been, and testing. I mean, there's been a lot of families that have been tested through this thing. Everybody, it's funny because everybody says, I just want more time with my family. But you got it.
Careful what you wish for.
Yeah. I was always that guy. I was like, man, I'd love to, just spend more time with my family. Boy, did we get it. And for the most part, it was good. But there was a few points where I was like, one of us ain't making it out of here, and I'm bigger than most of y'all. So.
That's funny.
Yeah. But Kristy, I appreciate it. Any kind of last words for our people? Tell us where we can find you on social media, your websites, all that kind of stuff.
So livingwellnutrition.com is my website. No underscores, no spaces. I have a Living Well Nutrition Facebook page. I'm on Instagram as Living Well Nutrition, I think _CENC, the Center for Epigenetic Nutrition Counseling is what that stands for. I would love for people just to give me a shout and email me or give me a call, and we can talk about what you can do to boost your health and increase resilience for running an ultramarathon, or if it's for, hey, I want to make it through the next wave of this pandemic.
Yes.
Yeah. And by the way, so we're talking, it's May. That's the time. Today is the day to get started to prepare for second wave, because your micronutrient status has a direct impact on how well you're going to fare. One nutrient in particular that has been helping with this. So when people are really struggling with COVID-19, it's because they have a massive inflammatory reaction within the lungs, making the lungs fill with fluid. Well, that's the macrophages producing cytokines, and crazy, way too many cytokines. So you could ameliorate that with vitamin D.
Oh,
so
interesting.
Get your vitamin D level tested.
Okay.
You can order that test actually off my website.
Okay.
But yeah, let's start the conversation. Don't wait.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, you guys, team, I would definitely encourage you, look Kristy up. She is an amazing human being, one of our favorites. We're big fans of Kristy Hall and everything she's done for us and our family. So check her out, and we'll put all the links and stuff in the description below. So Kristy, thanks so much for the time. And
thank you.
I will see
you again
fun. Soon. This is good. Yeah, I appreciate the conversation. It's always fun.
Yeah. Thanks,
right.
Shane.
Thanks, Kristy.
We'll see you.
Appreciate it.